What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome. What is going on? Welcome to the Week 13 edition of Matchup Points, the live stream here at FantasyPoints.com. I'm John Hansen. We've got two fields, Graham Barfield and Brett Whitefield, and Tommy T-Bone Field on the other side of the glass, getting it all done here. And we are also, by the way, a little double dip action here. If you're listening only to this right now, you're probably listening to the Fantasy Points podcast, which will probably carve out the Thursday games because that will drop on Friday morning. Normally it's me and Brian Drake, but again, holiday weekend. So without any further ado, guys, I know you're ready to rock and roll, ready to get this in the book so we can focus on Thanksgiving football, which kicks off in Detroit, as always, 12:30 Eastern. Let's get into it here. Brett, I'll go right to you, and I'll ask you about Caleb Williams, what you're seeing here the last 2 weeks with the new offensive coordinator, play caller, and how does that equate to this matchup here against Detroit? We actually do show it as a slightly positive schematic matchup, but I know you're very vocal about his performance versus man coverage this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, the new stuff they're doing is just honestly getting him on schedule. You know, a lot of design throws, quick game. It's not just screens. They're doing a lot of 3-step and quick game, a lot of slants and
manufactured kind of.
Yeah. Just trying to force him to play on schedule. And it's worked to a certain extent for sure. I think he's looked relatively good. He's still making just ridiculous critical errors, holding the ball forever on 3rd and long. There was a 2nd and 9 snap this past week where, it's one of the most comical plays of the season. Took a really bad sack, and basically ended the drive. So, and then against man this year, he's been really bad. He's faced the 3rd most man coverage in the NFL. We've charted him with the most sacks taken against man that are like his fault. He's responsible for. So I think that's rough. His time to scramble against man is 5.3 seconds, which is like forever in a day. He's got the 5th lowest hero throw rate, the 3rd lowest catchable ball rate against man. Obviously, Detroit plays just an absolute ton of man. They have the league best fantasy points per dropback allowed. So this is overall, I just think this is kind of a bad matchup for Caleb. DeAndre
Swift revenge game too. Care to as if that exists, but I have noticed the Lions might be a little shaky at the edges, maybe, but overall they're a tough run defense.
No, they got it back. They're allowing under 2 yards per designed running back carry the last 3 games. So
forget it.
Yeah, they were a little susceptible there when they were down Hutch, they were down Peschal. They've obviously got Josh back. They got Zadarius Smith back in the fold now. The whole interior's healthy again as well. So I think they're fine there.
Graham, what pops for you in this game? Jahmyr Gibbs looks incredible. I am in on a Keenan Allen prop. I know it's dangerous. Also, JMO. And I did hop aboard because I was kicking the tires on Laporta. But I'm kind of feeling it here with Amon-Ra a little bit banged up. But what pops for you?
I'm with you on JMO. I just gave out Jameson over yards, I think, for the 5th time this season. I'm just going back to it's at 45.5, John. Like, I don't really know what we're doing.
One play.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, he's got 5-6 targets a game, but
they give up big plays to the Bears a little bit.
Yeah, super condensed right now, and they give up big plays. They've just given up 5 huge big plays. I was looking at this before the show. They've given up on 5 throws of 20 or more yards downfield the last 2 weeks. They've given up like 275 yards. Over the full course of the season, they've given up the 5th highest completion rate over expectation on throws of 20 or more yards downfield. The Bears have. So, yeah, really good spot for JMO. Not as good as like the Colts and Jags the last 2 weeks, but definitely underrated for sure. I'm with you on Keenan too. We've been targeting slot receivers against Lions, all year. They're giving up his league high 105 yards per game to slot receivers. So definitely with you on Keenan. I wanted to ask Brett here before we get out of here, what have you thought of just the schematic changes of this offense, right? Like DJ Moore has 14 targets, 8 of them have been on design plays. Have you seen anything different from just like how they're kind of deploying these trio of receivers beyond Moore just getting a ton of these screen targets?
Yeah, I think that's really it, dude.
Yeah.
It's screens, and then they're getting, that quick game stuff is mostly going to Keenan. Some of it to Moore. And the thing is, they're only disciplined to a certain extent as well. So you're seeing that on early downs. It's like, oh, we'll throw in a 1st and 10 pass play, but that's usually quick game or a screen. And then, it's the same stuff on 3rd and long. Caleb scrambling around, trying to do something, and it usually doesn't work. So, a little Keenan Allen note here, too. I'm not necessarily scared about this, but Detroit, their last 2 games, they've given up less than 30 yards to the slot, to their 2 best games of the season by far. I think that's a function, not necessarily that they're playing better in that regard. It's more Carlton Davis being, injured, Terrion Arnold being injured. You got Kindle Vildor out there just getting nuked. And so, I like Rome a little bit too in this game because he's going to play both in the slot and out wide. He'll get some Kindle Vildor action, which I think is probably where they want to take.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go back to Odunze after he did us so dirty last week. It set up well for him last week, and he did not come through. I was just curious if you had any notes. Just obviously the Moore getting so many just layup targets is great for him in fantasy, but it seemed more of the same, really. Fewer ISO routes at least. That's been nice to watch.
I did actually pay for my current vehicle was paid for by advocating players against Kindle Vildor when he was on the Bears about 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
He was getting roasted left and right. All right, we can move on to, this won't be too long. Brett, I know you are into Rico Suave a little bit, and it makes a ton of sense. They are going to be down Zach Martin, which is a little bit of a buzzkill here, but yeah, Rico Suave, he's the guy, and it's a good matchup.
Yeah, I even like his prop. I know it's a little high, 67.5, but man, the Giants have just been awful against the run. They're dead last in most discernible categories. 5.23 yards per carry allowed, 8% explosive run rate, which is dead last. Big issues with forced missed tackles. Their last 5 games, guys, 186 yards per game allowed on the ground, 9 TDs. They got nuked by Irving, Chuba, Najee, Barkley. So a variety of skill player, different skill types there. I think Rico has a really good matchup. And I was saying this on the Wiesen show too, John. I know Martin's going to miss, and he missed part of this last game as well. The one bright spot of Dallas has honestly been their offensive line kind of figuring it out a little bit, especially in the run game.
Yeah.
Those adjusted yards before contact are up. The pass pro numbers also have looked pretty good. So big on Rico this week.
And Graham, I don't know how you can't be big on CeeDee Lamb. I'm in on his prop again here. Won that a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Football. I felt pretty good about it. Cooper Rush did, in fact, play well. They're sus in the slot, and they play single high a lot, and he kills that.
It is a perfect schematic matchup for Lamb. The average depth of target has just cratered, though. It's been cut in half, 5.7 yards.
True.
Last 3 starts with Cooper Rush, he was at nearly 10 with Dak. So, yeah, the volume's been really, really good with Lamb. Rush has played better. Deontay Banks is going to get smoked. But, yeah, the ADOT is just super low at this point.
But if guys, we were back to normal, that prop, by the way, would be 96 yards.
Yeah, it would be in the 90s. 68. Yeah. It's a nice line. I gave out Lamb overs in that Eagles game and got smoked. Haven't gone back to it, but this is definitely this is definitely the best spot for it though. Guys, real quick, I think the change to Drew Lock is a good thing for Malik Neighbors for one main reason, and that it's that Lock actually wants to throw the ball downfield. I don't know if he'll do it well, but he'll try. Averaged up the target at 8.5 yards in his career. Full yard deeper than Daniel Jones, 2 full yards deeper than what Tommy DeVito's done this year. John, what I know you've been right on Neighbors pretty much for the entirety of the year. He's basically just been a volume based wide receiver 2. Do we have any hope in this spot with the quarterback change?
Is that locked in? Is that a done deal?
I think so.
Oh yeah. Okay.
DeVito hurt his arm, didn't practice.
Yeah, I know. I know. He didn't even fly there. Right. Okay. Yeah, I would feel pretty good about it. I mean, I wasn't a big Drew Lock guy, but I got to tell you, the very little I saw last year could be a small sample size thing. He looked better. He had that one game against Philly off the bench, or I think he started. He looked pretty good there. I mean, he's always had a pretty good arm, So I think it's an upgrade for Neighbors. I feel a little bit better now. Their left tackle, who's replacing their starting left tackle, apparently, right, is out, so that stinks. But it's got to be better, Brett, don't you think, Lock?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's a locker room win as well. I know there were some issues with the way they handled Daniel Jones. Then there was issues with not starting Locke last week in the locker room because they signed this guy. He clearly targeted the Giants as a good opportunity, and then they basically were about to waste his entire season. So I think this is a locker room win. I think guys will play a little harder, and they'll be out for blood in this game.
Yeah, and I'm in on a special. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Theo Johnson, each with one reception in the first quarter. It's like plus 780 or something.
Ooh.
Which I'm like, yeah, right? I thought that was pretty good. Like
that's not bad for that at plus basically 800. That's 8. I mean,
because Neighbors is getting a grab in the first quarter.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, probably too. Few will be the
it's
one
plus 700 now. It may have been. It was higher before when I gave it out on the show, but it's still plus 700. I mean, that's pretty good.
John, we were all over Luke Schoonmaker last week. Nailed that one. This is a complete opposite spot, though, right? You know, Giants are just erasing tight ends. What's your vibe on Schoonmaker here?
You know, the vibe is that they are racing tight ends, but he could score. Like he's a tall ass dude. I was like talking to him like this. He's really tall, and he does seem to score. You know, so I feel like he's going to need a touchdown, though. Yeah, I mean, the Giants have been lights out all year, as you noted. So
they've been awesome. Yeah, negative 4.5 schedule adjusted fantasy points below average to tight ends. They erased K. Dotton last week too.
Yeah, and that was rotten. Miami at Green Bay. We are required to say rotten after K. Dotton. I don't know why. It's like a Pavlovian response at this point. We got weather at like 30 degrees. Brett, go to you here on your thoughts here. I mean, on Jalen Waddle prop. I mean, they play a lot of zone. He does pretty well in zone. I could see him finding those little soft spots in the zone. But I know you'll opine, because I kind of asked you about it, that this passing game now goes to freaking Jonnu Smith.
It does, guys. Jonnu Smith is their number one target. Since the bye week, he leads the team in target share. That's like a 6-game sample, by the way. So we're not talking a couple.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, 21%. First read share leads the team as well. Leads the team in design targets. He's 8th in the entire NFL in yards per route run overall. That's including wide receivers.
Yeah,
he's having an incredible season. Yeah, he's gonna break every career number he has so far, and touchdowns, yards, receptions, yada yada. So having a great year. I think it's fair to consider the fact that maybe Bill Belichick ruined him for 2 years. He was an ascending player coming out of Tennessee, went to New England with Hunter Henry, did nothing, went to Atlanta last year, had a great season, having a great season again this year. I think maybe Jonnu Smith is actually good, guys.
Yeah. Graham, are you venturing into the Green Bay Packer receiver waters? Because I am a glutton. I'm in again on Jaden Reed for the 3rd week in a row. It's 50.5. I'm feeling this one, though, with no Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, the condensed target share definitely piques my interest, but it's like banging our heads against the wall when these guys trying to pick which one's going to hit. I'm with you.
Jaden Reed's freaking good.
Yes, he is, but I mean, the target share has been not great. Even with like the overall volume is a concern here too, John. Like Packers have been kind of run heavy. Pass rate's been -3
for sure.
Below expectation and 4 straight.
Absolutely.
Overall,
their identity is Jacobs. I would argue.
It's become that way. Love is actually letting him score touchdowns, which he didn't to start the season.
Yeah.
I will say schematically, this definitely sets up for another read spot. But man, it's set up for a read spot like 3 weeks in a row at this point. Miami is not good. Or excuse me, they are good against outside wide receivers, giving up just 81 yards per game. Really good, 6th fewest. So, I mean, if you want to point to like, hey, Watson and Wicks are going to play more, they're going to run more routes without Dobbs, that's great. But like, man, just picking between these guys has been brutal. So I'm with you. Reed's still the best player here. He sets up schematically the best, but I'm still not feeling it exactly with this Packers passing offense.
This could be the Reed Kraft game, Brett, that we've kind of been looking at. I mean, it's going to happen at some point here.
It has to. I agree. Reed is the play. I'm just not willing to really plant my flag. They've hurt me worse than my first breakup. You know what I mean? Like this is terrible.
Do you agree? Do you agree with the statement that right now Josh Jacobs is kind of their identity?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Jordan Love being banged up and not playing well, they've had to really rely on that run game.
Yeah,
that's for sure true.
I will say
Love,
this sets
by the
up
way,
as a
looked
really
lot
good
better.
spot for Love. I mean, it does set up as a good spot. They play a ton of zones, 72%. Only Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy are averaging more yards per attempt against zone than Love. But yeah, he's not healthy. I think, Brett, you're just right about that.
I thought he looked better last week. Am I crazy, Brett? Did you notice that? He looked to have a little pep in the step.
Yeah, I mean, he did some things I liked. It was against a lame duck team, though, so I wasn't super thrilled. But
I think they would be a lot more pass heavy if he were healthy. I mean, they've been at like negative 10% PRO in 2 straight games. Like, if Love were healthy, then I don't think that's happening.
Yeah,
they haven't needed to throw, though. They especially didn't need to throw last week.
True.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's a lot of weird stuff going on here. Like, stuff happens where, like, you almost feel like the coaches aren't even planning it, but it just evolves that way. Raiders, Chiefs. We're gonna get Aiden O'Connell back, and Graham, I'll go to you here. I know you've seen how the Chiefs have been very giving against tight ends, though. I guess it's a little bit of a concern. I guess if they're going to play man, but looks like a good schematic matchup for Brock Bowers, no matter how you slice it, because we've got it way up there.
It's perfect. It's perfect, John. I mean, no defense is giving up more yards or receptions per game to tight ends than Kansas City. I mean, they're 13-point underdogs here. They're going to have to throw and throw a ton. It's a great spot for Bowers. John, we were saying this maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago too. Like, Jacoby Myers just continues to be underrated. Had another great game last week in a pretty tough spot. This is another tough matchup.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. I didn't see it either last week, but man, he is just awesome. Another great spot. Or excuse me, another tough spot. But man, I mean, the volume should be amazing. Myers has earned at least 20% of the targets in 6 out of his last 7 games. So it's just super condensed between Bowers and Myers at this point. And even though it's not a good matchup, like I'm just jamming Jacoby back into lineups.
And Brett, I mean, to be fair, are the Chiefs, they're leveling off a little bit defensively, just in general. They're just not as sharp. They're wearing down a little bit, it seems.
Yeah, they've been objectively bad, I would say. Their pass rush is non-existent. I mean, Bryce Young was able just to stand back there and just pick them apart. It was, it's tough. And those 2 corners, they have like a 3-man rotation at the spot. That's not. Why am I blanking on his name? Who's their stud corner? What the heck?
McDuffie.
McDuffie. Yeah, they traded Snead.
Guys rotating at the 2 other spots.
Right.
Those dudes have not been good. Jalen Watson, Shamari Connor. And then a 7th-round pick from last year. They're just really not playing well. So they're susceptible for sure.
Some hope
they are. But Raiders' implied total is 14.8 points, guys. Like,
that's rough.
Really bad.
Never mind. A shout out to the grinder last week when he popped out that Noah Gray prop. I'm like, oh my God, that thing's hitting. I should have been in on that first freaking play.
First catch. Yep, nailed it.
First catch. I think it'll probably hit again. Honestly, like, what the hell are we doing overexposing Trav Kelce? I know he went off in the first matchup, but it does feel like a game where they could let their foot off the gas a little bit. So I don't know about any of the other receivers, though. Anyone have any thoughts, Graham? Worthy?
Yeah, this is a good spot. I mean, Raiders are not going to have Hobbs or Bennett again. Both those guys are going to miss. They missed last week, and Sutton just absolutely stomped them. But I was talking to Chris last week about this Chiefs receiver room and just how they're rotating, and he's like, "Dude, the Chiefs don't care about the regular season," and I think that's just right. Like, we saw it last week. Hopkins' route share got cut again. He was down at like 51%. It's an amazing spot. I think both are pretty, like, if you have to play them as like wide receiver 3s this week, it's a really good spot for sure.
How about last week with Hopkins? If you recall in the live stream, I'm like, he's catching 5 balls and he's scoring in the middle of the end zone.
Yeah. I think I said that. I was like, man, I think Hopkins is going to score, and I think you.
Yeah. You agree with me. But yet I still lost a freaking prop by 8 yards. I mean, you got to be kidding me. 6 yards a catch. Do you have a feel for Pacheco? I'm thinking like he'll probably gain like, I don't know, half the early down carries. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm seeing like 12 to 15 touches, like 55% of the snaps, 60% of the snaps with goal line work. I mean, they've ramped him up for 3 weeks. I went back and looked. I mean, they brought him off of IR on the 12th. So he's had 3 full weeks to ramp up.
This has been the target week, I believe, for at least a month.
Yeah, because this is the short week. Got to get him ramped up for the last 5 or 6 games. Speaking of the grinder, Tom gave out under Kareem Hunt rushing yards at like 59.5, and I love that. Immediately tailed that. So, yeah, love that here. I don't
Raiders
think
are good against the run, actually.
They've been
better. They've been a lot better.
Yeah. They shut down Miami 2 weeks ago, and they shut down Denver last week. Their success rate allowed is like, I think it's top 5 in the league, 44% or something the last 5 weeks. So,
yeah. All right, let's move on here. The Week 13 edition of Matchup Points, the live stream here at FantasyPoints.com. I'm John Hansen, Graham Barfield, Brett Whitefield, and we're also doubling as the Week 13 Fantasy Points podcast preview podcast that will drop on Friday morning. So happy Black Friday if you're listening to this in podcast form. Chargers at the Falcons. It's a fascinating game on a number of fronts. Very good matchup, I see schematically for Darnell Mooney. Go to you, Graham. Looks like he's going to be all right. Raheem Morris talking him up here. And Kyle Pitts not looking good at all. What do you think about Atlanta's offense? I mean, Bijan is rolling. I mean, it's not the greatest matchup, but I think this could be a little higher scoring, and we have points expected.
Yeah, not a great matchup for Pitts, that's for sure. Chargers are just playing a ton of too high coverage, 61%, and Pitts has huge splits against too high. He's 41st among 49 tight ends in yards per route run against too high. He's 4th best against one high. So when he gets, a seam look, kind of middle of the field, closed, he's been a lot better. Also, Chargers they've been really good against tight ends this year. Negative 3.2 schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed. Against too high, it's basically been all Mooney in London, and I see no reason for Cousins to go away from that. And I'm with you. I think with Chargers passing a lot more, especially with J.K. Dobbins out this week, this game has some serious shootout potential. That's for sure. I don't bet game totals, but 48 does feel a little light here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I thought it was a good sign. It was 48, honestly. I guess we should probably expect that. Brett, not the greatest schematic here for our guy, Lad McConkey. But I mean, he's balling, man. I just hope he can stay healthy. It's just something fun to watch about him. He's like a throwback, and he's like smaller guy, but he's quick and he's getting it done.
Yeah. I just want to see him with like a full, just complete target share, just 30%. Let's see what he does with that. I think that would be fun to watch. Yeah. He's got a great matchup, D. Alfred this week. So does Josh Palmer, though. I kind of like all the options in the Chargers pass game. Falcons pass defense has been bad and getting progressively worse as the season goes on here. So I also love Bijan
numbers. Yeah.
Like the Chargers run defense has completely fallen off a cliff. Last 5 weeks, 55% success rate allowed, over 5 yards a carry on like serious volume to 130 carries. So they went from one of the best run defenses to one of the worst really quickly. And this is kind of what we saw with that Brandon Staley run team last year. They just couldn't stop the run. So I don't think they have the dudes up front to sustain that long term. So I think this is probably who they are.
Yeah, and Algiers, like Graham, like I don't know what's up. He's like in the doghouse or something, or in the dirt.
I'm not entirely sure what happened with that in their last game. I think he came into that game with a minor injury, and then they got smoked by the Broncos, and were like, screw it, we'll play McClellan. I'm not sure if he got like outright benched or if they just played Bijan in like the full bell cow role. I'm hoping that's what it is with Bijan. They just gave him the full bell cow role because his schedule to close out this season looks incredible. Looks like a potential league winner, that's for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm sorry. I know this is like a little bit of a flex, but my dog is barking, and I'm just looking at my outside security camera to make sure there's like nothing going on out there, because I am home alone. I'm like what's his face, Macaulay Culkin, over the weekend here, and I believe that. Or was that Christmas? When he was, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's Christmas. Yeah, Kevin got lost behind at Christmas a couple times. Hey, before we move on, Will Dissly is a really good play again this week. 68% route share without Hayden Hurst. Last week, that was the second highest he's had, and that's what we need in this offense, right? Is like just be on the field, because Herbert is playing incredibly well. They're throwing a ton. He didn't get there didn't have a great game last week, but this is
he got the prop though.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah. He was limited today. Was Will Disley, so we will check on that one there. I had some trouble finding the damn injury report today, honestly. Sometimes it's like some of the most basic thing, like an injury report. It's like, what year is this, by the way? I used to get this no problem in like 99, but like sometimes I struggle to find an accurate one, a comprehensive and accurate one. Anyways, yeah, for the Chargers, Graham, I'll go back to you. Do you have any thoughts on the backfield here? I know our guy Thomas thinks the Gus bus is like blowing a couple of tires.
He definitely has. Man, he has not looked good. He looked okay in that first game back, but the last couple of games he's not looked great. I think it's going to be some sort of gross rotation with Haskins. They'll bring up Kamani Vidal, who's been a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks, maybe give him a few, third down, passing down snaps, but I don't really think we can play these guys. And it sucks, John, because this is such a good spot. Like, I would love to play Dobbins this week. I have him in a few teams, but man, yeah, I'm just kind of full fading this backfield. I don't really think there's going to be a fantasy valuable role here until Dobbins gets back.
Fair. Let's go to Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. For Pittsburgh, your thoughts here on, well, I mean, Cincinnati's just getting, I mean, what are they defensively? Because you look at all the numbers here, Brett, they allow the fourth most schedule adjusted fantasy points to quarterbacks, fifth most to wide receivers. Now they are pretty good run D, I guess, but what jumps out to you about Pittsburgh here in this one?
Yeah, they're just bad. I don't even think the run defense is that good. I just think they're getting nuked so bad in the air that teams just haven't really ran it against them. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Lou's back end there. They have no coverage defenders that are very good.
Cam Taylor, Brett, is like the worst cornerback in the NFL right now. I mean, he's
given up over 1,000 yards receiving already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is in individual coverage. That is wild.
Yes, exactly.
Well, George Pickens is going to lose his mind here.
Yeah, I was rounding out to say I think this is definitely a Pickens Calvin Austin day. I like both of them, to be honest with you. So I think Russ is going to have fun throwing YOLO balls down the field against the secondary.
And by the way, not always a good matchup for Freiermuth against Cincy. Pretty good schematic as well. And Patty's been, was it 2 games that he's been back a little bit, or is it just the one? Oh, I was repulsed when I saw that Russ was targeting Darnell Washington a little bit more.
Yeah. He got a little more involved in their last game, but
I think it was just their last. Okay.
Yeah, I think 15% target share. Yeah.
What do we think about the Jamar Chase situation? Because as we note here, we're projecting a shadow for T. Higgins with Porter, which that's a little above my pay grade, really. I mean, but I would get it honestly because Higgins has been a big time volume guy, and not as deadly, but and then Jamar Chase, Brett. It does seem to stand out like this could be a blow up spot if he's not on Porter based on the schematics.
So I agree that Porter will be on T. Higgins in the shadow role. It's twofold really. So one, Porter typically shadows the X receiver of the opposing team. That's what Higgins mostly plays. It's because he's so physical. They like to get him on the line of scrimmage, get hands on him. They hide Chase. He's usually the Z or the slot. And so it's just really hard to play press man coverage against him or even press match. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is they like to keep Porter on the boundary side of the field. So he's going to play, especially if there's like static 2-by-1 formation. Yeah, he's going to play on the ISO guy a lot out there on the boundary or on the boundary. Sorry. So I think that's the twofold reason why he's going to be shadowing. So that's not good for T. Obviously, Porter's the one guy I'm super scared of in this league. So Chase should have just kind of free run to do whatever he wants, and I don't really trust Pittsburgh in the middle of that defense at all. So
there you go. Well, Graham, any thoughts on our guy Chase Brown? This could be a little bit of a tougher matchup here for Brown, but the bottom line is, what can Brown do for you? A lot, because he can catch 6 balls if need be.
See, I thought this was a tough spot too, and then I started looking into our data suite and found the Steelers have not been good against zone blocking this year. They've allowed 4.9 yards per carry, 55% success rate against zone blocking. Both those figures are bottom 3 in the league, and the Bengals run all zone. 60% of Chase Brown's runs are zone concepts. So I don't know if this is a bad spot for Chase Brown. I mean, the volume is going to be amazing. The roll has been amazing. And he could get 5 or 6 checkdowns. So wheels up on Chase Brown. I mean, this is like, you've been doing this for so long. Have you seen a better week for running backs in terms of projections? I think if you stack up the top 20 plays on the slate, like you could realistically say 16 of them are running backs. And obviously Chase Brown's a part of that. Just a ridiculous week at running back.
I haven't really thought about it, but yeah.
I mean, it's just an incredible year running back. Such a good run out, no injuries. All these dudes have stayed healthy, and the roles are great.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned last week. I saw Rachaad White was averaging like 14.1 fantasy points a game. I'm like, oh, he must be like RB 13. No, he's RB 29. I mean, that's because last year he was there and he was like RB 13. But let's move on here to Houston at Jacksonville. Looks like we're going to get Trevor Lawrence back. Brad, I'll go to you with Stingley. He's kind of their shadow guy, and we're looking at Brian Thomas against Stingley. That's a hell of a matchup right there.
Yes, it is. Stingley, it'll be like a partial shadow. I think that's what he did last week against Ridley. Thomas will move around enough to kind of avoid some snaps there. I think Stingley, he was on Ridley like 60% of Ridley snaps last week. So
that's what it looks like here.
Yeah. Still not good for Thomas though. In a week, you would expect him to do well. I am curious too, because Houston is down Jalen Petrie, and he's their best defensive player other than Danielle Hunter. And so I do think that's a big deal for this. I think Evan Ingram is probably in a great spot to produce. Even Parker Washington to a certain extent. I know we don't have a lot of sample with him, but man,
slot funnel.
It's a slot funnel, and they're down their best middle of the defense player in Petrie. So I just think this is going to be a great spot for whoever's lining up in the slot, whether that's Ingram or Washington or even Brenton Strange.
Yeah, Ingram's killing me, man. I'm mentally scarred, Graham, from the last 2 Evan Ingram props where it's like he gets the freaking catches and he comes up like 5 yards shy. It's absolutely killing me.
Well, if you can forgive him, John, I'm with Brett because I think I want to go all in on Evan Ingram this week. Like DFS betting, this is an incredible spot. Ingram has led the team or co-led the Jags in targets in every single game he's played this year. Last 6 games, he's got a 27% for target share. Leads all tight ends easily. We saw last year down the stretch run when Kirk got hurt and Lawrence and Ingram just like went off together. And this is a great schematic spot, Brett. You kind of alluded to it. Houston is playing a ton of zone coverage, 84% in the last 3 games or higher. And Ingram is averaging 2.3 yards per route run against zone. That dips to 1.5 against man. This is an awesome spot for Ingram. And I know this is, I'll save this for cashing points on Friday, the DFS show, but like I'm going to be all in on Ingram in DFS this week.
And Trevor Lawrence plays relatively well against this defense in general. I went back and I looked, and he knows it. I mean, enough from last year, of course. Feel all right about Ingram to Lawrence is going to throw for $150 at least, so somebody's got to catch the damn ball. And then Tank Bigsby back, but not the greatest matchup. But how bad, Brett, does ETN look this year, man? It's bad.
He looks awful. I mean, it's. Oof. I was skeptical of him last year. I think Graham and I maybe had some discussions about this. Just the boomer bust with him. It's like there was no consistency down for down with him. It's like he's not trusting his eyes, or his eyes are failing him. And I think it's mostly to do with that. And now this year, I feel like he just doesn't look as explosive as he did last year. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
Yeah, he's dealt with multiple injuries. I think he had a shoulder issue. He had the hamstring. They've also stopped doing that really fun like pin pull stuff. They were crushing people off pin pull last year, and they've gone away from that. They just don't have the dudes, obviously, to block. But yeah, ETN has been a fraction of the player he was last year. And this for fantasy, this is going to be some sort of just like gross committee. I think Bigsby probably ends up being the early down and goal line guy, and then ETN gets some passing down stuff. Like, I don't know if either of these guys are going to be usable in fantasy.
Maybe Bigsby comes back healthy and gives them a little pop, man. I mean, they need something back there. They got no life back there. Speaking of no life, CJ Stroud, well, maybe that's a little harsh, but maybe a good schematic matchup here for Nico, who destroys man, Brett. So Tank Dell does well too. Dalton Schultz, no. But your thoughts on the Texans offense, where we're at? It's still a little very suspect in my opinion.
CJ Stroud is not playing good football right now. It is. Last year he got away with a lot, but this year he's not getting away with anything, right? So that sack he took running out of the end zone was so bad.
Yeah.
For a variety. Yeah. He ran into pressure, by the way. Like, he had a nice pocket to step up into. He had a wide open check down and decided to run right into pressure. That's been the story of the whole season though. So
looks like a rookie.
Though. What's that?
Looks like, I mean, if CJ Stroud as a rookie would have had a rougher year, this is what it kind of probably would have looked like, kind of.
Well, and I contended all offseason he actually had a better year on paper than he actually played. Like, he was not spectacular in any one advanced metric last year, from whether it's accurate throw rate, catchable ball rate, anything like that. He wasn't spectacular at all. He's middle of the pack in just about everything. So, I think it's
like the protection. Maybe he was just more protected, and because it seemed like the protection was way better last year.
Yeah, pressure rate is roughly the same. I think he just performed slightly better or produced slightly more. Yeah, his time to throw is almost identical as well. It's like 2.75, something like that, which is a little long, by the way. He could really quicken that up, and that would do him a lot of favors. His first read share is like down around 60%, which is like, that's with like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and these guys that play off script a ton, and that's just not really what he does, right? He's not. He's not a guy who should be playing off script that much. So,
maybe he's got him playing a little fast, basically. Well, Joe Mixon, I don't know what do we do there? I mean, back to the well, I guess. Graham against Jacksonville.
Back to the well, yeah. Brett was just 100% right about that last week. Titans have an awesome run defense, just stoned them. Again, I think I'm a little more bullish on Stroud this week than I typically am, just because the Jags are so bad. Giving up a top 12 quarterback in 9 of 11 games in fantasy football this season. The only two quarterbacks who haven't gotten there were Jordan Love, he got hurt, and Sam Darnold. That was the game where he threw 3 picks. It doesn't matter if the Jags play zone. If they play man, they're going to get crushed. They've played man coverage on at least third of their dropbacks in 8 of 11 games this year. One of the games they didn't was week 4 against Houston. They played zone 85% of the time, and Stroud killed him, 345 yards and 2 touchdowns. As long as Nico's back, I'm going to be in on Stroud this week. And yeah, sure, he's not playing well. I still contend that Bobby Slowick is not a very good offensive coordinator, and they do way too many early down runs that are never going to work and are super predictable. But this is like the get right matchup of all get right matchups, guys. Like, Stroud has to score 20 in this spot, right? Like,
I do agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Also, we've had some really bad Nico Collins luck the last 2 weeks. He had a 75-yarder called back penalty, a 35-yarder last week. Like, this is
yeah.
Oh my God, Brett, I was pulling my hair out. I had him in DFS last week, and that second touchdown that got called back was awful. That was bad for me.
Let's go to Arizona at Minnesota now. I know might not be a great schematic matchup here for Marv Harrison because the Vikings run too high, I guess, a ton, and that's bad. But as I noted on the live stream, Graham, with DJ Moore last week, we don't stop number one receivers.
Yep.
I'm telling you, Marvin Harrison's he's going to make at least one big play in this one. He's up against Byron Murphy at times, but Brett, I guess the weekly check-in on Kyler Murray. Are we still just like in that mode? Like, I don't know, man.
we were talking about him pre-show a little bit. I get so frustrated watching him. Even this past week, like, off script, he was terrible. A bunch of inaccurate throws. He had that horrendous interception, took a really bad sack, all off script. So I'm like, if he's not going to do that stuff at a high level, what is he even? Because he's not a pocket passer, that's for sure. But I will say this: the Detroit Lions seem to have broken Minnesota's blitz So before Minnesota played the Lions, they were allowing a pass rating of just 64 when blitzing, which was best in the league, elite stuff, especially at the volume they were doing it at, right? Since that moment, a passer rating against of 112, fourth worst in the league, completion percentage over 70% against the blitz, ADOT over 9 as well. So it's not like they're getting dinked and dunked. They're actually getting, chunks taken out of them. Kyler has the ability to absolutely torch you against the blitz, his ability to extend plays. I kind of agree with you. I think this is a Marvin Harrison week. I know the too high stuff is scary, but the way Minnesota plays too high, they're going to be caught in a lot of zero look. It's a lot of alert type stuff, some fire quarters type stuff. So I think this is a great spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. Probably also Trey McBride. He's a great spot every week, but really like Marv.
Yeah. I said, Graham, that I was on the VSiN show. I'm like, I'm in on the over on Marvin Harrison. I don't care what it is. I'm in. Why? Because I've been a fan of this team for literally 50 years, I believe. Well, maybe just under. Not much though. Anything else here? Well, what do you think, Graham, about how about the Justin Jefferson disappearing act last week? I mean, that was one of the most counterintuitive things of the week because it was like a great schematic for him and a not a good one for Addison yet, vice versa here. But I don't know. Any thoughts on I think the Cardinals are pretty decent on defense lately.
Yeah, just to put a bow on the Kyler thing, and I had Marv overs last week because I thought it was a great spot. Kyler is the 31st best quarterback in football when blitzed by fantasy points per dropback. There's only 2 quarterbacks that are worse, but he's 3rd best on non-blitz dropbacks. So, Brett, hopefully you're right, and the Vikings blitzes have been cracked a little bit, and the Cardinals can kind of help crack that code because Kyler has not been good at all on blitz this season. I want to get Brett's thoughts on this because when I went back and rewatched the game on Monday, it just seemed like the Bears just did a ton to take Jefferson out. Obviously, he gets covered differently than pretty much any receiver in the NFL at any given week, but it seemed like a ton of brackets last week. Obviously, Jalen Johnson was on him a ton. And then Addison just had a couple games or a couple plays where he just got beat deep. But Brett, what did you see with Jefferson?
Yeah, they were actually moving Jalen around with him when he was on the outside for sure. He even followed him into the slot a couple times, if my memory serves me well. I think 2 or 3 snaps at least. So, yeah, I think 23 routes or so was covered by Jalen Johnson. I think Darnold is just scared of him, to be honest. I think they liked what they were getting with Addison and the Addison matchup, and they just went at it. I think Jalen Johnson was only on Addison like 20% of his routes, so that's a big discrepancy there. And Tyreek Stevens is just not a very good player right now. Anyways, he's not playing good, so I think that's the exploitable matchup, and that's kind of what Minnesota did.
Plus, you got you started to get going with Hawkinson too. Although I think Arizona's been pretty good against tight ends this year. We can move on here. I mean, we all know Aaron Jones. You just roll with it and light a candle. Hope he can stay. I will say, James Conner, the absolute bed shitting at my expense was absolutely numbing. I mean, there were like 17 data points that pointed, Graham, to a good James Conner performance, but dude got like 9 yards, man.
Yeah. Came out of the whole offense was not good coming out of the bye. Something I'll just keep saying that Drew Petzig is not a very good play caller. And this is not a good spot for Connor to bounce back too. Vikings are giving up just 3.7 yards per carry. I kind of think we'll see some more Trey Benson as the season goes on too. Maybe they'll try to get him rolling.
Yeah, sure. Indy at New England. Well, the Anthony Richardson experiment. How'd that go last week? I mean, it didn't seem to go very well, Brett. And you have a similar matchup here against New England, don't we? I mean, in terms of man coverage.
Yep, for sure. New England's going to play a ton of man. They haven't been necessarily great, though. Like the Lions have basically been erasing quarterbacks in man coverage, where New England's kind of still they're teetering around average. So it's not quite the same. Richardson, what's weird is I felt like he started that game against the Lions very well. They had the QB run stuff going pretty good. And then the second they started getting behind the chains, they stuck with the Taylor stuff too long is what it was. The second they got behind the chains, and you're just asking Richardson to beat tight man coverage with his arm repeatedly. It's just not going to happen. It's just not where he's at right now in his progression. So you could see a similar game plan here with New England, and I guess that's kind of scary.
Well, Graham, Michael Pittman looked freaking great last week. I don't know, did you see that?
He did, yeah. He looked a little rejuvenated, had something after the catch. That one catch he had, really strong hand, got hit hard, then had a nice run after catch. Josh Downs is probably going to miss this game, unfortunately, our boy. He had a shoulder injury popped up late in that game. He'll probably miss this spot. So we'll get some AD Mitchell in the slot like we got in weeks 1 and 2, which is really fun. I think AD Mitchell is just awesome. But yeah, man, it just comes down to Richardson. I mean, like Brett kind of noted, I thought he played awesome in those first 3 drives. And then from there, it was the same old A-Rich. Like he had a 30% off target throw rate. Catchable target rate was way down. I think it was a season low, in fact, for him at 54% in terms of his catchable throws. So it's just been a full roller coaster here. And John, as you noted, it's kind of a similar spot. Although obviously Lions are just a significantly better coach team than the Patriots. That doesn't need to be said, obviously, but I will say I'm leaving the lights on for Richardson in this spot. I was not feeling it last week, but I do kind of like this spot a little better. I'm leaving the lights on.
We getting Christian Barmore back?
He's been back, I think.
Yeah, I think he
was he back last week?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I see. The time's running together. All right. And Taylor, man, this is not good. This is really bad.
It was 2 really tough spots back to back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, he should get 23 carries in this one, I would think. As well as Ramondre, by the way, probably. Anything else here? I mean, Indy has been terrible against tight ends, so pretty good spot there. I see Demario Douglas is on the injury report. He'll see some Kenny Moore action there. But Graham, anything else fantasy-wise? DFS, anything here?
Yeah, I don't want to tout Hunter Henry, but it is a good spot for him. It definitely is.
Yeah, they're spreading that ball around a little bit too much, though. Freaking Kendrick Bourne and all that. Seattle at New York Jets as we move along here. And, well, Brett, I don't know. I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy. DK, going to probably see Sauce. Obviously, these corners are pretty good. Geno, I'm not sure where he is. Looks like a schematic matchup that looks positive. Maybe a JSN game. What do you think?
The Jets' run defense got sorted out. They had a really terrible stretch. They've been better since. I think, and Seattle already has this proclivity of they don't want to run the football for whatever reason. So I think they're going to have to lean into that pass even more. This could be like another 60 drop back game for Geno, which just means opportunities for everybody, man. JSN's hot. Although what's up with JSN's role? Like it flip-flops every week. I feel like week 10, he was this downfield vertical threat. Then last week his ADOT was like 1.8. I don't understand, man. It's very tough to figure out, but anyways,
he's like a hurry up back. He gets peppered with targets when you're playing from behind late in the game.
It's almost like that is the run game now. It's like screens to JSN. That's their run game, and honestly, that's what the offensive coordinator did at Washington. Like Penix's screen rate was led college football basically. So, I like this for all the receivers just because the sheer volume I think they're going to have.
I mean, go ahead, Graham.
No, I didn't have anything to add beyond that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets do play man. DK, you generally like him against man. Ken Walker getting a little bit, was a little bit more involved in the passing game last week, right? Beating out Charbonnet. But yeah, this game is, I don't know. You know what? It's just flat because the Jets are so damn flat. Breece Hall's banged up. Devontae Adams has a terrible ass. Aaron Rodgers looks like an old man out there. It's like I saw that graphic. It was like Darnold, and then picture of Sam, and then darn old picture of Aaron Rodgers. Brad, any thoughts on the Jets passing game in this one, or their offense?
It's just gross, man. They can't generate explosive plays, and that just kind of hampers the whole thing. Everything has to be so meticulous and just. I just feel like Seattle's designed to stop that well. Tariq Woolen's back and healthy. He looks more engaged. Before, when he was trying to play through some injury, he was looking kind of disengaged, making some business decisions. But he looks back. Devin Witherspoon, obviously awesome. Their front, I think, is coming along nicely too. I think their front's playing really well right now. So I don't like anybody else, honestly.
Wilson.
Yeah,
and
I was
Adams,
I was
mean,
struggling to find
hope
some
for the
good
best.
matchups in the spot too. 41.5 is the total in this game, and honestly, I feel like it could be a skosh lower. Just not feeling it with the Jets. Seahawks defense was competitive last week, man. They were running, getting after the
Right.
ball.
Mhm.
I will say, I was
Playing
just
the
looking
run
at injury
well.
reports a second ago. DK Metcalf popped up with a shoulder issue. Tyler Lockett has a knee injury, so just dial up your JSNs again this week if those guys are a little beat up. Beyond that, I really don't have much from this game. I think Garrett Wilson is going to come out of the bye though, and they're just going to establish him. Like I've just got this gut feeling that it's like, okay,
Me
John,
too.
you said
Yeah.
it. John, you said it. Like we know what Adams is at this point. Rodgers is out.
Yeah.
Like let's just get
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson the freaking ball, man. Like let's get this guy.
But then again, I had that thought. I put him in my trade article actually. But on the other hand, it's Aaron Rodgers. What if he just goes in full DGAF mode and he just wants to throw to his boy Devontae? I mean, you know. But I hear you. When in doubt, go with the one guy. It's like
Who's
neighbors
open.
across.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But it's also neighbors. It's like, guys, you got nothing going for you here. As an organization, I don't know, you may want to just feature this number one pick of yours to create some optimism for next year. Hello. Tennessee at Washington. Brett, I'll go to you. I must tell you, watching it, not every snap, but watching along with that Washington, I kept thinking that we were back in fall off a Cliff Kingsbury territory. Am I wrong? Has this passing game leveled off? I mean, you take away some fluky big plays. I don't know what we have the last few weeks. I did think Daniels looked a lot healthier last week.
Yeah, that's the concerning part is I was excusing some of Cliff because of the Daniels injury stuff. He looked horrible against the Eagles, but you're right. He looked healthy. He was running more. The ball had some zip on it. His throwing mechanics returned to his, where he was early in the season. So yeah, I'm kind of in full panic mode because he's looking like Arizona Cliff again, man. And it's kind of scary.
Here
So
we go, falling off that cliff, baby. And then Graham, Terry McLaurin will drive a fantasy analyst insane in the membrane. I mean,
Yeah, he had basically nothing until that really long play there at the end when that game went absolutely ham. Yeah, I will say Daniels is definitely healthier. 9.9 yard ADOT last week. I think that was maybe the fourth highest of his season. Yeah, third highest of his season. So, downfield stuff was definitely back. You can beat the Titans. I continue to think the secondary is just not very good. L'Jarius Sneed's now on IR. Yeah, I'm in on Daniels again. All I needed was last week to get me back in, seeing him fully healthy. I want to flip over to the other side, though. I think we're really waiting on Washington in the run game. Like Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler are both hurt. Washington side is pretty
Brian Robinson actually did some work today. I was shocked.
Did he? What?
Yeah.
Dude, he hurt his ankle twice in that game. He hurt his ankle in the first play, and then I think he rolled it again.
I know, but he was
You're
limited
right. Yeah,
today.
limited. Well, Eckler has the concussion, so that's his second of the year, so he's probably
right.
out.
Yeah, he's out.
All right, we'll keep tabs on that. Flipping over to the Titans side, man, Calvin Ridley is he didn't have a huge game last week, but the role has been so good since they've dealt DeAndre Hopkins. Only Malik Neighbors has a higher target share among receivers. Neighbors has a 32% target share. Ridley's is at 29%. Average depth of target has exploded with Levis back. This is a tough spot. Commanders are not giving up much deep, just the 6th fewest passing yards deep, but I just wanted to highlight Ridley has been really good since they traded Nuke. They've done a good job of scheming up looks for him. Not a good spot, but I'm going right back to Ridley here.
They really have. He should see the rookie a little bit right here. Brett, I'm going to go back to the Titans defense here. This Tavondre Sweat, dude, I was like, I didn't know a ton about him, quite frankly. Honestly, I'm not but this guy is one of the biggest dudes I've ever seen.
He's an absolute. I made the comp a couple weeks, actually last week when we were talking Mixon. Snacks Harrison 2.0. This guy is. Yeah. He's a freaking animal. You cannot run.
Oh my god.
Any interior gap runs with him are just busted. And then even you want to run outside zone, he's going to get down the line of scrimmage so fast for his size. Good luck. I mean, and then you got Jeffrey Simmons playing next to him, so you can't double Simmons anymore on run plays. You have to double Sweat or else you're just getting blown up. So pretty much nothing is going to work against this run defense. I think they're top 5 success rate allowed the last 5 weeks. And that's including a game against the Lions. So they're balling out right now.
Sweat's been an animal all year.
All year.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do awards every quarter on the First Read podcast, and he was my defensive rookie of the year after first quarter of the season. So
Wow. Well, I've obviously known, that their run D has been really good, but do you think there's any problems here for Daniels? I guess it's a hard question to answer, right? Are we falling off a cliff or not? I mean, because I just worry about this front just kind of just really disrupting everything.
yeah, they're not going to be able to run the ball. That's for sure. At least not
Yeah.
designed running back carries. So Daniels is going to have to get it done with his arm or with his legs. Tennessee's pressure rate is garbage. They can't
That's
rush
true.
the passer. It's like 30% on the season. I think the last 5
Yeah.
weeks is even worse than that. So I
right.
think passing wise, Daniels should be fine.
Let's move on here to Tampa Bay at Carolina. Big Mike always crushes this matchup. Looks pretty solid here for Cade Otton. Great matchup for their running game. Our guy Bucky Irving came through. I mean, hell, they all could come through in this one. Bryce Young last week. I mean, he absolutely looks like he could belong and be one of the best 32 people to start at quarterback in a year or so, based on what he's shown here the last 3-4 games.
Yeah, massive improvement. Some of it's Canales too. The scheme, he's made proper adjustments. Motion rate is like near triple what it was before. When Bryce started the season, and then the play action rate is way up as well, which is pertinent because Bryce is so small. It's hard for him to throw from the pocket. You kind of have to attach play action to it to get some of that area cleared out a little bit. So. But he was dropping dimes all over the place last week. By far, the best game of his career. Looked confident. The time to throw is down to like 2.3 seconds, guys. That's awesome. That's what you need out of Bryce right there. It's like quick, decisive, accurate. Like he can do those three things often. Yeah, he for sure belongs in the league.
Graham, I'm kind of interested in Thielen at this point. Like people would say, "Oh, he's slow." I'm like, well, guess what? He caught 100 balls last year, and he was slow last year. Any thought? Nobody cares, but I'm thinking, maybe Thielen just kind of gets rolling here. You want your young quarterback to have a nice end of the season. Who better to be a little, your pitch and catch guy here like last year?
Yeah, Bryce probably trusts him the most. He did get up to a 70% route share last week. He missed 7 or 8 games with a hamstring injury. Must have been pretty severe. So it was good to see him get back out there. I don't really have like a standout like matchup in this spot for this receiver group, but yeah, I saw the same thing, Brett. Like the time to throw is way down from Bryce. Just watching the game, like his processing is back to where it was at Alabama. And, like you said, yeah, he's small, but like, man, the rhythm and anticipation he threw with in his last year was so good. And it was great to see against a tough matchup too. This is a good spot to finally. I don't think Bryce has ever had 2 back-to-back like good starts. This is a really good spot to keep that going. Bucks are not good through the air at all. The only thing I really want to note here, John, this is an amazing spot for Cade Otton to bounce back. We were noting last week it was a worst possible matchup. Giants are giving up the fewest schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game allowed to tight ends. Well, guess what? The Panthers are allowing the most at like +5. So we're going right back to Cade Otton, even with Evans back. I really like Otton in this spot.
Baker continues the deal here, Brett. It seems like Baker is this is it. This is who he is right now. I mean, again, Liam Combs seems to be doing a hell of a job, but Baker is kind of the same guy every week.
Yeah, this is the Baker I came to love at Oklahoma and just thought was worth the first overall pick. I think for him, he's such an emotional guy. It sounds crazy, but Liam has really got him to play kind of more, play his emotions close to the vest. And you're not seeing these huge up and downs with him as much. You still see some like, he'll get frustrated and take a bad sack, and that happens. You'll live with that because of the playmaking ability when he's right. But it's just he's definitely got him a little more even keeled, and I think it's been big for his overall leadership and just command of the offense.
Yeah, maturity too. But good point there on Liam Cohen. Seems to be. I remember when Baker had that stint with the Rams. I thought, I saw enough in that 1 month where I'm like, you know what? Baker's going to be the guy to take over for Stafford, but I was incorrect there.
Well, they brought him
here
off
we
the
are.
street. They brought him off the street in
Oh,
that
I
game,
know.
and then like 3 days later, he's balling out.
He had zero practices going into that game with the team.
Yeah.
That was equal parts GOAT on Mayfield and McVay. That was awesome coaching by McVay. Crazy stat on Mayfield before you change games here, John. He has finished as a top 8 scoring quarterback in fantasy football in 7 out of 8 games this year with Mike Evans. That is insane consistency.
Crazy.
Insane.
It's like if you love Baker coming out, like this is you're in.
I've been fully
Nirvana right
vindicated.
now.
I've been fully vindicated because I had him at number 1, 2 in that draft too, Brett. I loved him coming out.
I liked him as well. I definitely didn't. It was Darnold, right? It was the Darnold. I had him over Josh Allen. I tell you that.
Yeah, Rosen, Allen, Jackson.
Yep.
Oh, Rosen. I nailed Rosen. I'm like, no. Nope. No.
I will never forgive the Jaguars for taking Taven Bryan over Lamar Jackson in that draft. I was screaming at my television for hours. Actually, I think I turned the draft off when that happened. I was like, oh my God, we're sticking with
that would have been
Bortles.
So perfect.
Yep.
There was a moment where yeah, I mean, and Lamar, a Florida guy. I mean, come on.
It made no sense. It was perfect. And we had a great defense then too. Like he would have been a perfect fit.
Could have Bill Belichick this year. Just coming.
Congratulations, Thomas. You're welcome. You're welcome.
L.A. Rams at New Orleans Saints. Good matchup. I was worried about Stafford last week, but he got it done. And this Saint D is, Brett. They're bad. I mean, they're just beatable as hell. Like Puka and Cooper Kupp should crush.
Yeah, they're bad. Gosh, it's the fact that the Rams offense is so consolidated too. Like those two on the field together are getting like over 70% of the targets every time.
Tutu's dead. Tutu's dead.
I love it.
Yeah. It's literally Puka, Cooper, and then Kyron in the run game, and that is freaking it. Like you can
McVay's like, why would I throw to my bad receivers? Like, why would I ever do that?
And then the Saints, they haven't been great against the run either, especially lately. 50% success rate allowed the last 5 games. So I think Kyron gets his for sure. But it's just Puka, and the volume is just so good. You can't come off those guys. It's just so good.
Oh no. Graham, any thoughts on give it to me straight here? Is MVS doing it again for the 3rd straight game? Let's cut to the chase. Go.
I'm feeling it. Rams
Whoa.
can get beat deep. I'm feeling it. The roll has been okay.
I can see it.
They have no one else to throw to besides Taysom. Like, guys, they can't throw to Taysom 8 or 9 times again. Yeah, 77% route share for MVS in his last game was easily a season high for him, obviously on the Saints, but even with the Bills. So they trust him. Carr's been throwing deep to him. I would love to see him get some shallower targets to kind of boost his floor a little bit, but I'm feeling it with MVS. I'm also feeling it with Cooper Kupp. I mean, this is just an unbelievable spot for slot receivers. Nakua has the higher ceiling for sure, but Kupp's spot here is amazing. Saints are giving up the 3rd most yards per game to slot receivers, 5th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game. Love Kupp. And I think this game, John, how are you feeling with Carr this week? Because I think that's really the key to this game. Like if we get a 2 touchdown game from Carr, this game could score 48, 50 points,
I mean, I'll go back to Brett because I will say that the matchup in the secondary is probably beatable, but this Rams front,
yeah,
I mean, are they emerging here?
Oh, dude, you're watching like in a year or 2, this is gonna be the best defensive line in football easily. They are.
Those Florida State boys are balling, man.
Man.
Byron Young too, Kobe Turner, Michael Hoyt. I mean, these guys are just freaking. They're gross, and they play this super penetrating style of defense where they don't even really care about giving up rushing yards. They're just like, screw it, we're gonna go make plays in the backfield. We'll hit you for a -8 on one of them, and then you'll stop running the football. I think Carr is. This is not a good spot just because that defensive line is going to terrorize him.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that scares me for this game.
With a lot of carries.
Yeah, that scares me for this game here. I was kind of hoping we get a decent Carr spot, but
maybe we get like a 9-catch Kamara game here, Graham.
Yeah, he's been kind of game script dependent in that sense. Like, just gets a ton of targets when they're getting crushed, especially with Carr. But Kamara splits. He's averaging like 140 scrimmage yards per game, and Carr starts. That'd be more than Saquon Barkley. But in the games where they had Rattler, it was like 70. So yeah, I mean, Kamara with Carr has basically been like the RB1 in fantasy.
Well, Taysom Hill here.
Yeah.
Single high, that could help Hill or MVS, I guess, because the Rams run that a lot.
The biggest thing with Taysom is he's just playing more. 57% of the routes last game, 59% of the game previous. He was never above like 50% in the game this year or the year prior. I mean, he's basically just been a part-time player. It's out of necessity. I don't think they want to give Taysom Hill 8 targets, but they don't have anything else to throw. Anybody else to throw to here, unfortunately.
Let's go to Philadelphia at Baltimore, and your thoughts, Brett, on schematics, whatever. It looks like a slightly okay schematic for Lamar. This defense, though, is really good. What stands out to you? I mean, the Ravens are a tough eval in the passing game. Likely goose egg last week. I guess Mandrews is who we need to default to. And it does seem like Zay Flowers is kind of like, boom or bust here. What do you think about Baltimore?
This is going to be their toughest matchup of the season, I think. Philly, I know schematically it looks good on paper. When you actually take the most recent sample, like 5-6 games, Philly's defense is just playing out of this world. And I think that schematic matchup no longer looks like a good one. Cooper DeJean made Cooper Kupp look like a pedestrian last week. And, he's going to catch a lot of Zay Flowers in this game. Quinyon Mitchell is going to probably lock down Rashad Bateman. I think the way to go is Mark Andrews here if you're playing a Baltimore guy. But Zach Bond has been a revelation for the Eagles. He's been outrageously good at middle linebacker, especially in coverage. Man, this is just not. I took the Eagles to win this game, and I think they're going to win comfortably. To be honest with you.
Wow! Wow! Well, I'll stick with you. Don't you think Baltimore's defense, though, like they've seemingly fixed some of their deficiencies there, blown assignments and the like, and it seems like they've really tightened it up on the back end.
So 5 explosive, 15 plus last week, 5 the week before that. They're still giving up a lot of big plays. I think the total raw production's been better. Some of that's probably opponent driven, right? Like the Chargers aren't probably as good as we thought they were. Who'd they play before? The Bengals. Bengals still got them for a lot, right?
They got them for sure. That's true. Yeah, kind of throw it out with. I guess they were all right against Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it just seems like they're not embarrassing at the very least. But yeah. So, do you have any thoughts? It doesn't look good here, Graham. By the way, for Skinny Batman, I know it's early in the week, but he did not practice today.
It's unfortunate because this is like a best possible matchup too. Obviously, this game could go to the moon. I just want to echo what Brett said. I think the Eagles win this game. I don't know why they're 3-point dogs. I think the Eagles are the best team in football. They're the most complete team in football. They've got a great defense, a great offensive line. Jalen Hurts is playing better, and Saquon Barkley is having a Christian McCaffrey-like impact on this offense. So I like Eagles to win the Super Bowl, honestly. If they stay healthy, they should be the favorite right now. This game is super interesting because Zay Flowers is crushing one high coverages, but as you noted, I mean, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are playing outrageously good football. Flowers is averaging over 3 yards per route run against one high, under 1.5 against two high. Eagles are playing a lot of one high, as they should, with these corners. Just leave them on islands and let them play. So it is a good spot for Zay Flowers, but man, I mean, it's like the two of the best corners in the game. And I kind of want it. I haven't totally finished writing up this game yet, Brett. I wanted to go there with Andrews too, but last week, man, we saw it again. Like, yeah, he's caught the touchdown, but 57% route share again. It's split with him as Isaiah Likely. Like, man, I wish they condensed things, but it's not going to happen. Basically, every time Likely's on the field, like, these guys are just splitting routes. It sucks.
He's still getting the target share though over Likely.
Yeah.
And he's getting all the red zone work. He leads tight ends in end zone targets, right? I think that's true. He's still number one in ass as well. And the Chargers are a bad matchup. Derwin James is a very good player to cover tight ends.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I know the role's concerning though. You want more than 57% route share. So,
do the Ravens have what it takes, I guess, to slow down Mr. AJ Brown, Brett?
I would say no.
Hard no.
Well, to be honest, no team in the NFL really does. AJ Brown is very matchup proof. He's a dude. So
let's go to San Fran at Buffalo, and hey, not looking good for Brock Purdy. Although I don't know, what was he limited today? I mean, I don't know where we go. Brett, where do we go? Do we go away from Debo? Do we go? Well, we probably go to Kittle. Although it looks like Milano may return. Debo usually good against zone. I mean, there's a ton going on here. What are your thoughts on the Niners here against Buffalo? And did McCaffrey look any better to you last week?
No, McCaffrey didn't really look any better to me.
He didn't.
Debo he still looks explosive, but he looks so heavy. He doesn't look the same cutting to me. I said the same thing last week, so I'm not really changing my tune there. I think you got to play with whoever's going to run into Taron Johnson the least, and I think that's probably going to be Jawan Jennings.
Yeah, right.
It's just Buffalo secondary is just so good, though, man. It's tough.
Right.
They
Is
give
Jennings
up
back
nothing.
in the slot?
Yeah, no, he's been out wide since Ayuk. They lost Ayuk. He's been out wide, I think 65-ish% of the time.
Yeah.
But to that point, I mean, Bills just give up nothing out wide. 72 yards per game out wide to outside receivers, the fewest in the NFL. I was going to come on and hype up Jennings a little bit if we got Purdy, but I have no clue on his status because I don't trust Shanahan. And also Trent Williams missed last week. Their run game was atrocious without him, and he's dealing with this ankle injury, didn't practice again today. He's the most important non-quarterback among offensive linemen in the NFL. So not having Trent out there again this week, especially in this spot, Bills coming out of the bye against a good coach, good defense on the road, just horrific spot again for the Niners, like absolute horrific spot. I don't think McCaffrey is even a fraction of where he was as a player. I went back and I've rewatched all his carries. Like explosiveness is not there. I think I said last week it looks like he's got a little bit of a belly. And now there's no Trent Williams.
Yeah.
I am pretty concerned about McCaffrey here moving forward.
Yeah.
It's probably way past time to be concerned, obviously, but man, it's not good.
Yeah, not good. Nick Bosa out of practice again, so we'll see here. That would be crushing. Brett, anything stand out to you? I'm feeling Amari Cooper coming on down the stretch. I don't know about this week. I'm always feeling a little Khalil Shakir, though. Anything for Buffalo from you, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think I like Amari. I've said it all along. You can beat this San Francisco secondary, especially if you can pass protect. Nick Bosa, like if he misses, I like all these guys, man. Honestly,
Right.
I think they all shred. I think Josh Allen has a great game. This could be the final blow to the 49ers season, in my opinion.
Brett, did you know, fun fact last week, that Jordan Love was not pressured at all? 25 dropbacks, no pressures. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Without Bosa. I mean, Josh Allen is going to do whatever the hell he wants back there if they don't have Bosa.
I did not know that. That is actually crazy.
Yeah. I thought Data Suite was broken. I thought Data Suite was broken. I just double checked it and reran it again, and it's not. It's wild.
I'm envisioning an Amari Cooper long touchdown on the left side, which is where Christian Watson should have had a 49-yarder.
Oh, John, I thought of you when I saw that drop. I immediately thought of you, just how painful that was, man. I was with you on Watson last week. I don't think I can get back to it this week. But
no, I'm not, but I'm back to Reed.
I like your Cooper call in this spot, though. I'm feeling it, too. I think, he's been dealing with this wrist injury. He hasn't ran a full-time route share. For all the same reasons we kind of liked Watson last week, it feels like a Cooper week.
Let's go to the last game. Cleveland, Denver. Jerry Jeudy is balling. I mean, this is the best he's ever played, I think. And then we're going to get Patty Surtain, though, on his ass, which is probably scarier than last week's spot with, I don't know if Porter traveled with him, but he was on him a lot, Brett. And then Tillman, I don't know, man. This to me is a little scary for Cleveland, honestly. What do you think?
Yeah, it for sure is. So you've seen Cleveland do this before, where they don't like the matchup, they'll stick Jeudy in the slot a little bit more and try to manufacture some good looks for him. I think this has to be one of those games where his slot rate's up near 50%. If they want any shot, that is, I guess.
Right.
They might not do that. They kind of did it a little bit with last week against Pittsburgh to avoid Porter. And they were successful in that. Judy got away from Porter enough to have an impact on the game. So, yeah, it's scary though, man. Pittsburgh's defense is just sorry, not Pittsburgh. Denver's defense.
Denver.
Yeah. Sir.
Yeah.
Pat
They're just aggressive. They're like hungry out there, man. They're playing hard.
So fun to watch.
Yeah, it's similar. Their defensive line's playing similar to the Rams, where it's just like they have a bunch of athletes, dudes, and they're just going for it. Just pure penetration, trying to cause havoc. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm feeling it with Judy in the spot, John. They moved him into the slot 56% of the time last week. Yeah, 56% slot rate to get away from Porter.
Right.
Surtain does not go inside. So the big key here is if they get Tillman. Tillman is dealing with a concussion. If Tillman plays, it'll probably allow them to go back to that with Judy. I don't know if they can if they don't have Tillman, though, because they don't really have a boundary receiver beyond that can get separation. You're not putting Elijah Moore out there. Yeah, they went, John, just this backfield. I don't really know if you want or need to talk. If we need to talk about this Broncos backfield, I don't know if we do.
Oh, God. Well, no, here's the thing. If Javonte Williams is up against the 85 Bears, start him. If he's up against the worst run D in football right now, bench him.
Oh, my gosh. They played Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, they couldn't get anything out of Estime either. They went back to McLaughlin last week, so awful.
Yeah. Are we on Devon Vele? Are we on Vele here? Melee on Vele?
We did, yeah. We gave out Vele a little bit on the stream.
We did give it out. Yeah.
It was a good spot last week. Raiders were just so beat up in the secondary. I've got some more respect for this Browns secondary.
But hey, Cortland Sutton, you just start him. Just stop asking about Cortland Sutton at this point. Just freaking start the guy, right? I mean, am I crazy? I mean, Bo Nix continue. How's Bo Nix? Still, it's like this is a thing, Brett, with Bo Nix in this offense.
Yeah, I was on the Sirius XM show this morning and telling the guys like he doesn't stand out in any one metric, but he's just kind of doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's like the antithesis of Russell Wilson in that offense. It's like, hey, we want you to throw a screen. He throws a screen. Hey, we want you to throw a deep ball here. He throws a deep ball.
Yeah.
It's just like, he's just doing what Sean's telling him to do, and it's working. He's not doing one thing super great, but he's doing everything kind of fine. So Vele looks good though, by the way. He's like this cross between Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. I think that you can see why they cut Tim Patrick now. It's a little redundant in the offense there to have both those guys. And he looks good. The ass numbers are good for him for a big guy too. That's really impressive because he's a big target. So
it's like a Marcus Colston type of guy for him, Yeah. And by the way, Peyton loves his pet projects. Now, I was told it was Lucas Krull late last year. He's gone off Krull. He's on to Vele. Try the Vele, says Sean Payton. All right, well, we'll wrap it up on that note. We thank you for tuning in here. We thank Brett Whitefield and Graham Barfield for all their info and knowledge. And our guy, Tommy T-Bone, will stop it here. Also, the Fantasy Points podcast, this live stream here, we're going to be using the audio. So if you're listening on Friday morning, we're recording this on Wednesday evening, so no coverage of the Thursday game. But that is a wrap-a-roni for Graham and Brett. I'm John. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Enjoy all the football. Good luck with all your plays and your props, and we'll catch you next week here at FantasyPoints.com.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.